select immunity boost today. Your car giving you. Hey, bring it in. Fix that.
Today for big brands in stock and on sale, plus up to $100.
I'm going to invite my comedic friends. I have Jay Leno's going to join me on the first show. And Rob Riggle, veteran, by the way, is going to join us as well. And I go out and I do about 10 minutes of stand-up at the start, just like I did tonight. And then we'll do a quick interview of Jay or whomever the guest is. And at some point, we'll pull balls out of a hopper. Now, before the show, everyone writes one word down on a ball. Just a single word on a ball. It'll go into a hopper. It'll be like lotto. And the guest will pull the ball, read the word, and I'll do an improvised stand-up set on that one word with an assist with them.
Awesome. So this is what we've been talking about. It's not just about news and commentary. If you want to influence the culture, you got to make some culture. We're grateful that Adam's going to come make a little bit of culture with us, and we hope you guys like it. It'll be coming this year.
Yeah, and we have 2 live shows. You're going to be in SoCal. I hope you're not, because it's miserable over there. But if you have to go to SoCal, we're doing October 30th at the Bray Improv. Leno will be there, and Rob Riggle will be there, and we're doing we'll tape our first 2 shows that night.
Awesome. Adam Carolla, everybody.
Thanks, you guys.
Strategy. So I just kind of wanted to run that by you, see if you could pick any holes into that kind of shit.
Yeah, if you want to, go for it.
Yeah, so particularly the thing that pissed me off is the fact that, like, there are things that are known. You know, DAs and prosecutors, they work with law enforcement all the time. They deal with use of force cases all the time. They deal with adrenaline and people, you know, flubbing their stories and fucking up and using their emotional intelligence in order to not get killed. And all of these things, like, through prior case law have been taken into account, and they've been, like, ameliorated in order to say, like, hey, you know, despite this being not what we view as ideally moral, it's understandable based under the circumstances because we have adrenaline and violence and people getting killed and all that kind of shit, so we're going to go ahead and give some level of latitude. I didn't see any of that shit in the fucking prosecution. And what I mean by that is like, oh, well, he just tried to kick you in the face. He didn't have a gun. Grosskreutz or whatever, he didn't shoot anything at you. He was just in the active, you know, whatever of like pulling the gun. And then unfortunately this like feeds this whole fucking cycle where like the news people can be like, oh, out of all the people who Kyle Rittenhouse dealt with, actually nobody shot at him. And then you have a bunch of fucking normie dipshits fucking doing that. So, anyways, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna be this whole argument might just be me repeating this phrase, and it's probably going to actually completely build upon our prior argument. So to summarize our prior argument, I said that I think that the way that we arrive at good things the best is to have two polar forces that counteract one another. Because usually the truth or the best outcome is going to be somewhere in the middle of these two sides fighting with each other, is how I tend to feel. So when I hear things like, when you talk to like defense lawyers, like they have like a highly antagonistic attitude, or it's mutually like antagonistic between like defense lawyers and police or whatever, that's good. I think they should be. They should hate each other because their jobs are like diametrically opposed what they should be doing. So I've seen a lot of people point out, and I even laughed at like some of the things that were said in this case, like, well, like for one of the lines of questions, like, you didn't know he was going to shoot you, right? And Rittenhouse like, well, he was pointing a gun. He's like, sure, he was pointing the gun at you, but you didn't know he was going to shoot you, right? Right? It seems like a ridiculous line of questioning. However, the prosecution's job is not to be looking out for Rittenhouse's best interest. It's not to present the case in a way where Rittenhouse seems reasonable. That's not what their goal is. That's not what their goal is. That's not what their job is. Their job there is to try to sell the idea that Kyle Rittenhouse either acted with forethought, he knew that he was going there to kill somebody, or that his life wasn't in danger and he was still using lethal force to kill somebody. These are the jobs. This is the job of the prosecution to make that case. It's going to be the job of the defense to say, okay, well, hold on. Like, was it reasonable to assume he'd act or whatever, right? That's just what these two forces are attempting to do. So I don't view it as being like a bad thing. I think it's just the two sides doing their job.
Right, but then my frustration with this would be like, this is all so apparent, at least to me, anyways. It's also apparent to me because we have footage. That's why.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you took a lot of the descriptions, like, oh, Kyle was charged by an unarmed man who had like psychological issues, but ultimately, like, you know, he was unarmed, and he actually intentionally separated himself from the group. And then that resulted in this guy's death and this, that, the other. And after that, when other people tried to chase him in order to apprehend him or whatever, you know, basically he turned around and he killed those people. Now, because the narrative is so dry and it's lacking so much physical context, I, as a prosecutor, seriously feel comfortable that I could even argue that and get a conviction, like all that kind of stuff. But because we have the footage, it shows so clearly that this is like, you know, like a case of self-defense, where the what would I say? Like, the prosecution basically jumping past things it knows to be true in order to obtain a conviction is frustrating for me. And it's not just frustrating. It's a question of whether or not this is the way the system should work.
Well, so let's go back to the whole beat. So I don't know enough to say this. I'm not going to say this. So one thing I think is I don't know.
This is Twitch. Nobody knows what they're talking about.
The best part of a trial, the most important part of a trial, okay, is the pre-trial. It's the discovery process. Now, we might say, like, oh, yeah, we've got all the footage. You don't know that. I don't know that. This is the whole point of, like, or one of the big parts of taking something to trial is the discovery process, where everybody gets to sit down. We get to say, like, where is all the footage? Do we need to subpoena these people to get more footage? Is there more information we can get? What witnesses can we bring in? Who do we talk to? What depositions we getting? All of the information on the table so that we can lay down everything and see what clearly happened. And it might be the case that in the process of going through that discovery process, maybe there is footage that would dramatically change the way that we would view this. So I maintained from the beginning that from all the footage that I've seen, it looks really open and shut to me, like a very clear case of self-defense. That's what it looks like to me. However, it is highly improbable, but still possible, that there are some scenarios where Rittenhouse was acting in a way prior to Rosenbaum charging him they could actually really make me call into question the self-defense aspect. For instance, let's say Kyle was acting in an incredibly threatening manner prior to Rosenbaum chasing him. If that was the case, then I think it's a little bit harder, because generally, if you're in the commission of a felony, especially with a weapon or certain felonies, you don't have the right to claim self-defense afterwards. If I break into your house and I've got like a knife with me, and then you shoot and kill me, and then or you shoot to kill me, and then I stab you and kill you, I can't claim self-defense. I'm in the middle of like felony burglary. I can't do that. My self-defense doesn't stand. So I think that if that is the case, that we're taking this to trial, it's the prosecution's job to make that argument. It's the defense's job to show with an affirmative defense that, hey, yeah, you shot and killed 2 people, but it was self-defense, and we're going to show you why. Both sides just have to argue their case at that point. As long as they're not like breaking the law or breaking procedure to do it, I think that the onus is on both to present their arguments as best they can.
Yeah. Okay. So don't let me forget this. But basically, there is something. Hold on, I'm gonna write it down actually. So legal thing that might actually justify. But the yeah. So my frustration with that perspective is that like.
Hey guys, I'm not going to tell you to download FaceCheck, but I'm going to show you why you have to download FaceCheck. In champion select, I can already see that my teammates are on their main champions and I can see all their win rates. Ashe, 71%. Zed, 100%. Shaco, 86%. This is the easiest win of my life. Also, there's more to it. We're going to lock in Thresh. It's going to automatically push everything we need with a few simple buttons. Runes check, summer spells check, everything we need to only focus playing on the game is already taken care of for us. So let's go in the game and take a look at what else we got. One simple press of a button and we can see everything about everyone. All of their ranks, all of their runes, how good and bad they are at champions, tips if I need them for the champion that I'm playing, win rates of everyone on their specific champion they're playing. What I'm trying to say is if you clearly want an advantage in your ranked games, FaceCheck is going to be the app for you. Feel free to use the link in the top of the description to download it right now for free and start winning more of your ranked games today.
For free.
The things that are known in this field, both in the prosecution, so it would be one thing if you were saying like, hey, the prosecution actually has evidence that corroborates a narrative that goes against it, or goes up against Rittenhouse, but it doesn't seem like they have one, so they're fabricating one. And that's where, you know,
Well, but what if they, when you say fabricating, that's a really strong word.
Oh, and I can back it.
Okay, yeah. So be careful, because trying to say like because the argument right now is, was Rittenhouse's life, did he have a reason to believe that his life was in danger, and his only response was to kill the person? Right? These are, in my opinion, relatively subjective things, and to call those into question or argue on the other side, I wouldn't call that fabricating a story. I would say that you are presenting a narrative that you hope is more compelling than the defense's narrative, right? So I don't like that word unless you can say like, oh well, here's where they invented some facts, or here's where they submitted evidence that was made up or whatever, right?
Yeah. So basically, this would be my my frustration is because these things aren't unknown. Maybe they're unknown to individual lawyers.
Wait,
but
what things aren't unknown?
Yeah, I'll list those out.
Oh yeah, okay.
So these things aren't unknown. They might be unknown to like individual lawyers, especially like rookie lawyers.
Fuck. Holy shit, almost died.
So for instance, like during the case where
All right.
the prosecution was like, hey,
Holy fuck me, man.
you know, you said that Rosenbaum had a gun, but he didn't.
Oh.
Think about that to the crowd or something like that. There's already like so much context within here that like affords a certain amount of psychological latitude. Number one.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
No, I mean you can if you.
I just like
want.
when you say psychological latitude. Again, I think that we just view this totally differently. And by the way, you might have a better view of the criminal justice system than I do. Maybe because I don't really know. I haven't been part of this. But from my understanding, the prosecution is not there to provide.
Switching headsets. Okay.
Their goal is to impeach his character, right? Let's say that it's the case that, as the prosecution, you can prove that Kyle made several false statements over and over and over and over again. You might be able to call other parts of his testimony into question, especially if it's not corroborated by anyone else.
So we're gonna try this new leveling method and see how this goes.
Valid thing to do, in my opinion, as a prosecutor. This is your goal. You're not there to provide psychological latitude. Psychological latitude is literally the defense.
I gotta win a battleground, and I get vile.
Oh. Therefore, he needed to kill somebody in self-defense. That's the defense's case to make. It's not up to the prosecution to be mindful of that.
Sure. Okay. So let me give you some ammunition before I do anything.
Okay.
That way, like, we don't forget it. So there's actually, you might be aware of this footage, but there was actually a video, like maybe 2 weeks prior to the incident, where Kyle basically
Wish he had a gun to shoot the people at the mall or whatever, right?
Right, and I don't know if he specifically. I think it was like a CVS that was getting looted.
Yeah.
And I don't think he specifically said like so I can shoot people.
I think he said I wish I had my AR-15 or something. I think he said.
Yeah. But for all we know, that could play into the LARPy fantasy that we saw. So there's like a certain amount of ways that can splay. But one of the things that somebody brought up on Twitter, probably one of the few stupid things that I didn't see on Twitter today, was the fact that there's a preclusion for the self-defense, like sub-paragraph in Wisconsin state law that actually says that if you put yourself in a situation intentionally in order to cause a homicide, then
What's the queue time for this shit? 6 minutes?
Basically
Not too
rob
bad.
you of the ability to do self-defense.
Sure.
And so for me, if you were to argue like the prosecution,
I'm pretty excited about trying this.
if they want to build a narrative saying that he's actually been planning this for a long time or whatever, I think that's something that's arguable. But then I think that has to go up against like the totality of circumstances where the prosecution or whatever is aware of other things. They're aware of the fact that he's volunteering in the community. They're aware of the fact that he was doing first aid for protesters. They're aware of the fact that
yeah, but wait, none of that helps the prosecution's case.
Hold on.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, before you rip it up, I'm not trying to help the prosecution's case, by the way.
Okay, sure.
So because basic, and then here's the other thing too. They should be aware of prior case law in which like unarmed people were viewed as threats of deadly force because they were trying to take a lethal weapon from a individual, and especially with like footage to back it up. So I'm not saying that they need to like shit the bed and throw the case or whatever, but what I am saying is, does this combative, because you're basically what I'm hearing when you're making this argument is you're saying that the combative nature yields the best results, and as a result the prosecution is doing what it's supposed to do in order to yield like the most aggressive case possible. But when you predicate a case on the fact of like psychological and physiological things that are understandable by like science and history and like psychology and sociology and all that kind of stuff, and your conviction is predicated on things that can be explained by other facts that you should know about, especially because you're part of the industry.
Oh, fuck.
I'm not saying like, and this is actually where I landed on it, so I want to present this to you. Is the defense attorney can be as shitty as they want because their client's life is on the line, right? But I almost feel like the state, much like in other avenues in industry, should be held to a higher standard of conduct, where the prosecution should almost be unilaterally held to the standards of truth and fact. And that was kind of like, because I'm a centrist, that was like my centrist compromise that I kind of came up with. Where
these words are like truth and fact. I mean, like both sides should be engaged in truth and fact, right? Are you familiar with the difference? Have you ever heard the difference between like history and historiography?
I've only heard you mention it. I've never actually heard it.
Okay, so I think like history is like I don't even know how you would define history. History is like stuff that's happened in the past, broadly speaking, right? So
Damn.
when we do
Is
history,
it the Twitch drama of the past?
sure, the Twitch drama of the past, right? I think historiography is when we tell a story, we are selecting certain facts, right? Anytime I give an accounting of anything, there's been some selection that's occurred there, right? If I tell you what happened during World War II, I'm not reporting every single individual that died. I'm not telling you what every single, right? It's usually I'm giving you a handful of actions across a handful of actors across a handful of years, right? We're making decisions on what facts we want to report, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So as long as both sides are being factually correct, you can still tell totally different narratives with the same set of or with the same with arguably like if we both have the same set of facts to draw from, we can we can tell dramatically different stories depending on the narratives we want to spin, right? Narratives aren't necessarily false, they're just a way of accounting for the facts.
Right, but at the same time, so let's focus on like a single fact so we don't like talk past it. So a single fact, let's just focus on Rosenbaum, let's not focus on anybody else. Okay. A single fact is that we have had use of force cases for law enforcement and self-defense cases for civilians that have been predicated on an armed defender and an unarmed aggressor. Okay. This has happened it probably happens thousands of times per year, let alone like basically like case law. Basically being involved in the case alone, so you have to okay. So there's a certain amount of precedent here where you could say like, okay, well, the fact that this person is unarmed is actually completely irrelevant to whether or not self-defense is a valid thing. And yet I see the prosecution.
Wait, hold on. I don't think that's true at all.
Tell me.
I'm sure there have been cases where an unarmed person has attacked an armed person, and the armed person has gotten off on self-defense. I guarantee you there have been cases that have gone the other way as well. There is an armed person getting attacked by an unarmed person, and the armed person kills the unarmed person, and they don't get off on something. I guarantee you that both of these, that those cases have gone both ways. It doesn't always go one.
Oh, I don't have a trinket.
Of course. And
Oh
that's
no.
like,
So then your goal then, so your goal,
you have the ability to discern them.
yeah, but that process of discerning, that's called trial, right? That's when you go to trial to figure it out. You don't discern those things by just looking prior, because obviously the defense is saying, oh, well, this is like those cases, and the prosecution say, well, this is like the other cases, right? The process of discernment is going to court and to do a trial.
But this is where I would like unilaterally hold it on the prosecution, because basically like there are, I don't know if I'm being like too vague to be understood or something, but basically like there are like psychological, physiological responses like most people go through during like stress that readily explain like everything that's happened during this period. That there's
Okay,
also,
here's
like, enough.
I think this is where we're getting caught up, okay? So, what you're telling me, these things aren't descriptively true, like, features and facts of the world. What you're giving me are arguments that need to be made in court. It's like fair use, right? There isn't, like, a legal, like, this is fair use. Fair use is a defense that you employ in court to defend copyright infringement. You say it's not copyright infringement. That's what fair use is. It's not like a, look, this is fair use, now we don't have to go to court. Fair use is my defense in court. When you say there are like psychological factors that can explain relations or a relationship between like a defender and an attacker or whatever, right? That might be true, but oftentimes these are going to be things that need to be argued in court. That's
I think we're
like, oh, he was probably really
I think we're gonna lose this one.
so boom, bada boom, it's done. This is what you have. This is the
This macro is fucking me right now.
Yeah, but
Where you at, macro?
with your analogy or whatever, wouldn't you concede that there's like especially you know, bigger corporations or whatever that violate IP law specifically so they can maintain like a nefarious brand? Like Disney is a prime example of this. Games Workshop, something I deal with all the time. They don't strike down non-fair uses of their intellectual property.
Oh, this is annoying, bro.
And then they wait to see who has the balls to appeal their intellectual property disputes. And like,
Okay.
that's the thing is like there's precedent for intellectual property where as long as your work is transformative.
Oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Hit the wrong button.
As long as you're not just sitting there
Yeah, I'm brand new to Shaman, so I'm still learning. I kind of want to 1v1 somebody and see if I can do it.
there is precedent for this that's understandable outside.
Oh my god, everyone's just getting mowed down, man.
And that's kind of my point. Is like you're saying like jurors need to like oh god, this is why I'm not a Democrat. Fuck jurors. Like most people are stupid as fuck, and they like and again like the thing.
Oh no. That's through wall, by the way.
Their clients like a rigorous defense because we don't want people to get fucked over. Well, I'm saying this is like a unilateral disarmament of the prosecution because the state actually does have a vested interest in not just serving like random prosecutions so prosecutors can like go home and jerk off about how they have like a good game stream or something like that, or that they can get like a shitty conviction based off of shitty evidence because they like manipulated the jury. And this is actually like where it was really frustrating for me. If you'll indulge me one more story.
Okay, wait, okay, real quick. Dude, so much of what you just said was so like. Let's say that we do think that the state is like a bias or a bad institution. Wouldn't that make it all the more important then to have a jury so that we're not letting a single judge who is a representative of the state decide the outcome of our court cases? Like, it seems like everything you just said is a really good argument for why maybe it is a good idea to have a jury of like 12 random fucks of society rather than the state deciding the outcome of every single court case that we're now arguing biased or unfair. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So I just poked a hole in like an avenue of corruption where like people because basically for me it's like well if somebody lost then that's obviously better because then
well, they might walk while that's a crime.
Right, and that's where it probably could be used nepotistically, where like a DA gets like a $10,000 check to like a Swiss account. He's like, oh yeah, I reviewed all the stats and the data based off of this. We didn't see anything. So yeah, there's definitely an avenue. Not that for and I'm like trying to perfect the system on the fly, so if you'll excuse me, like the minor holes. The thing about it is though, with like the prosecution is like, so for instance, like I would say that there's a decent amount of padding and bullshit that has nothing to do with statutes in this case. It has nothing to do with the law. It has nothing to do with justice. It just has to do with the the prosecution thrown enough shit into the fucking case that maybe they can get conviction out.
I mean, like that's the prosecutor's job. Of course, is to
Wait,
bring up
wait,
every.
okay, so hold on, because this like really rubs me wrong. Like, not that you're rubbing me wrong, because I understand.
I can rub you wrong. It's okay.
Okay, so like you're being descriptive about the way that the system currently works, but you're not really like asking whether or not this is the way that the system.
I think this is how it should work. The state has the onus to. Yeah. No, wait, no.
Got him.
I never said anybody should make it up or invent facts. Okay, but if you want to bring whatever you believe is relevant, if the judge admits it as evidence and it's legal, then that's your job to tell the jury a story to get your conviction. That's actually your job. The defense's job is to tell a better story to explain why the defendant acted the way they did, so that they don't get a conviction. That's the job of both sides.
Okay, so let's barrel down, because again, I don't want to get past it. Like, so the thing about it is like very specifically with like unarmed versus armed people, we have case precedent that fucking shows that like there's people who
14K, 17K, 8K, 33K, 15K.
Who's trying to say like, oh, well, you had the better gun, therefore did you really feel in danger? Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Holding the pistol on you.
Okay, hold on, real quick. I would bet my life.